In this lecture, we're going to see how you can work with gradients within your state changes. This is a subject that confuses many students, so I thought it was a good idea to include it as a lecture and make things clear a little bit. We're going to go to Qt Creator and look at that. We are going to start from the state we left the last lecture in, but I am going to do this as a separate project to have things separated nice and neat. So I am going to create a new project, File, New Project. It's a Qt Quick application. We call it States with Gradients Demo. Choose our Qt version. Choose our kit. Hit Next and Finish. Let's state what we want to do. I am going to go to the last project and copy whatever we had in there and use it here. The way I do that, I'm going to go back there. You should go there in your project and copy everything that is inside the window element. We should do it like this. I think this is correct. Let's double check. Yes, we copy, we come back to our project here, the new one, and we paste in what we had. We also have to bring in the resource files, otherwise we're not going to find these trees. We're going to go where the last lecture is defined. Click on the file here, the main file of it, show in Explorer. We find this folder of images. We're going to copy it, close this, come back to our current project, show in Explorer, the same thing really. And we're going to paste in this folder of images. Okay, we have our trees. Now we can add a resource file, resources, add new, Qt resource file, call it resource. You want to add your prefix, take this out, hit enter, add files, and you're going to find these two images here. You want to load them, save your thing, come back to main.qml. We can close this actually. Let's save our thing here, close everything because I don't want things to confuse me. Open my project again. Okay, this is what we have. We run it. We're going to have everything we had in the last lecture. Okay, this is what we had. What I want to show you is what would happen if you specified, for example, the color of your sky or the ground as a gradient. Okay, let's comment this out, for example, and put in a gradient property like this. A gradient is really nothing but a set of color changes. You want to set the color of your gradient, for example, as going fluidly from one color to another, for example, from red to blue. You're going to see what I mean. If you run this application now, let's see what happens. Okay, you see that the color of the sky is like this. It's going from dark blue to a lighter blue. This is what a gradient is. So if we want to use this in our application, we are going to have problems if we try to set the states by passing gradient like this. I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to put another gradient for the ground. Let's comment this out and put in a gradient. And go to our states in summer. What many new students do is specify a gradient like this, okay? Like they specify a color. So they say gradient and set it to something like this, for example, put in another gradient. Well, this is going to be disastrous. Let's run. Your application is not even going to run because there are components that are going to fail to load. This is a bad syntax and it can be confusing for many students if they do this. So the way you do this, you shouldn't pass a full-blown gradient component like this. You should look at the gradient. You see that it has an ID, okay, and it has properties. So you can actually target this thing and change its color. Okay, so what you should do is not do something like this. We're going to comment this out. Instead, you would do a separate property change that targets the gradient. Control A, Control I to align. Okay, you see that we are targeting the start color of the sky, and we are changing this to the color that we want. And we could do the same thing for the sky and color. Control A, Control I to align thing. We animate the changing of the start color and the end color in our gradient. Okay, this is how you should do it when you want to pass in state changes from your gradient. We're going to do the same in the spring. Actually, the changes we did here are for spring, so we're going to copy them here. I'm sorry for that. If this confuses you, we're going to put this in spring. And on top here, we are going to do for summer. And in summer, it's going to be like this. Control A, Control I. It's nothing new really. We are just changing the colors here. Let's run and see what we get. The sky should animate correctly now. You see that we see our thing here. We are seeing a gradient on the ground and on the sky. And if we click, you see that the sky color changes fluidly. This is what we want, and it is a gradient. And it adds a little bit of life to your scene here. I don't know if you can see that. So we're going to do the same for the ground. So in summer, the ground is going to change to, we want to take out the color because that's not what we are changing. We comment this out and we put in a gradient that changes the ground color. Control A, Control I. This is what we want. In summer, we should do the same thing. In spring, let's go down, find ground. We should take this out because we are not changing the colors. We are changing the gradients. Control A, Control I to align. And we change the ground gradient like this. We change the start color and the end color. Let's run. You see that the ground also is changing accordingly, following the gradients that we set. And this is really all I wanted to show you in this lecture. If you want to pass gradient changes in your property changes, you shouldn't do it like this. This is not going to work. Your application is not even going to run. Instead, you should specify your gradients like this, give gradient stops an ID, and target these IDs to change the colors. This is how you do it. This is all for this lecture. In the next chapter, we are actually going to start working with networking in QML, and we are going to do fun stuff like fetching REST APIs and using them in our Qt Quick application. I'll see you there.